How many of you have ever left your state and gone on a benchmarking trip somewhere? Anybody in the room ever done that? What would you guess is a definition of benchmarking? What is benchmarking? So if you were to benchmark something, what would that mean? What would you do? Anybody know what benchmarking might mean? Anybody want to offer a possible idea? Yes, ma'am.
Kind of comparing yourself to the norm.
I would just change the word norm. Finding somebody who's the best. But benchmarking to others in your space is also another way of doing it. Today, and the reason I'm mentioning that to you, today I'm going to take you on a benchmarking trip. I'm going to share with you a collection of best practices. And so I'm literally going to share with you places I've been, books I've read, research I've studied, and some research that our company has just completed with one of the top executive search firms in the country called Naviga Business Solutions. They specialize in executive searches for marketing and sales positions only. Naviga Business Solutions was the name of the company. We've just sent a survey, and I extracted out of the results of it, we sent it to over 33,000 business owners and executives across the country, and we asked questions about 4 or 5 key business topics: marketing, which is lead generation; sales, which is the ability to convert them from leads to clients; leadership development; execution; and executive coaching. Those were the 5 areas that we did the research on. I'm going to share with you 7 or 8 of the pieces out of it related to execution, because it is the number one reason by a landslide CEOs get terminated. One of the things we're going to question today is, how bad do you want to grow your business? Most business owners and business leaders that I meet have a conflict going on. There's a difference between what they want and what they're willing to do for it. Most business owners, if I ask you how many of you would like to grow your business, all of you will raise your hands. That's the good news. The bad news is most of you are not willing to do what it takes to get there. I'm going to share with you 10 or 12 solutions to substantially improve your business, and at least half of you will walk out of here with good intentions, and a week from now, you can't even tell me where your handout's at. You've gone right back into your comfortable way of doing business. Culture will trump strategy every time. You'll go right back into your routine and your habits of how you run your day, which, by the way, is part of the reason your business is where it is. And so I'd like to ask you to be thinking throughout the day, do you want to grow your business, or are you really committed to growing your business? Thus, the pig and the egg. There are 2 4-letter words that are enormously valuable to all of you. 2 4-letter words that are just hovering over this whole discussion today. They're a big cloud. Anybody want to guess what one of them is? Anybody want to guess? I'll tell you what they are. And this is not in the notes, so you might want to write this down. One of my challenges today, one of the reasons I get excited, one of the reasons I get passionate, is the word good. Well, think about that for a moment. That's an interesting word. See, most of you, watch my arms, think you're good. And in fact, you probably are. However, my experience would be that there are a lot of companies in this economy that if you just get okay with being good, you are starting to decline. Because there are people competing with you who don't wake up every day with a burning desire to be good. It takes a different kind of thinking to become not satisfied with good. See, it takes a different kind of thinking to be willing to take good and say, you know what, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, enough's enough. Let's take it to a new level. And to be able to engage your entire management team, whether that's you and your partner, or 6 people, or 10 senior partners, or however your business is organized, and be able to rethink a different kind of way of running the business. And to do that, there's a different word that gets in the way. So one word is good, the other word is busy. Busy. Now think about that. Those are an interesting couple words. How many of you in this room are busy every day? And the answer is all of us. See, busy really gets in the way of growth. because I'm going to share with you today 13 solutions that literally could, you'll hear me occasionally reference client results. I am obsessed with results. Jeff is right. The first word in my bio is the word results. I only work with people who are obsessed about growing their business. So I'm not for everybody. I'm not a good fit for some people who just want to plod along and maybe 1 or 2% a year. So for people who aggressively want to grow their business 10, 20, 30, 50% a year over the next 5 years, now those are fun people to work with. What I have trouble getting in people's heads is they keep telling me how busy they are. On your notes, fill in the blanks for this. If your management team, now for you that might mean you and your partner, so there's lots of different sizes of companies in this room. If you're OT, then that might mean 12 or 15 members of an executive team, senior partners. If you were to think about the next year or two, if your management team became obsessed with planning and execution, if you followed what I'm going to give you today to the T, if you became incredibly disciplined and made it a fun place to work doing it, what do you think the gap might be in financial revenue for your company? So today you might be on target to be a $5 million company. John, I don't know what you're going to share with us, but I know there's a big opportunity. If we became obsessed, we think we, in the next couple of years, make this a 14 on your little piece of paper, 2014, if you even have it. Is that on your piece of paper? No. All right. Well, draw it somewhere. Improvise. Be innovative. What's possible? I want you to know your gap. You don't have to call this out. This is for you. What's the gap? What's the business reason you're sitting here? Because how long does it take to make a decision? Answer, that long. But for some of us, it may take years to get ready to make the decision. And so I'm going to challenge your thinking today about drawing a line in the sand and say, enough's enough. The way we've been doing it has got us to where we are today, but I want to draw a line in the sand, and that's not a bad thing. You're successful. A lot of businesses in this economy are not being successful, but you draw a line in the sand and say, I want to take it to the next level. And I want to begin to build a planned approach to doing that. If I'm willing to rethink 5% of my day, 5% of my week, 5% of my month, 5% of my year for me and my executive team, whatever that means to your company. When I click the button, we're going to talk about creating alignment, increasing productivity in your workforce, executing with more consistency, sustaining your growth, and how to outperform your competition. Would that be valuable for you to walk out of here and know how to do at least one of those? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, I'm going to give you all 5. And you know what I hear about the issues over and over again? Because I speak in front of a lot of audiences. Is when I ask the question, what are the 1 or 2 key things that you go to bed thinking about, sit in church thinking about, drive down the street thinking about as a business owner or a business executive, and 98% of the answers usually center around, how do I get more customers, generate more revenue, improve cash flow? Most answers are kind of, sort of around those 3 words. That's a technical term, kind of, sort of. And so most of today is really centered around how you do that sustainably over time. And 1 in 5 rock stars would be good. What I'm asking you to think about is the other 4. Because that's really where the opportunity lies. And if you really want to challenge the opportunity, here's something that I want you to have as a takeaway, and this is not in your notes. Listen carefully. These people do not like working with these people. They do not. If you want to have like 1 or 2 takeaways from today, these people do not like working with these people. Especially when you come around and hand out 4% pay increases and everybody gets 4%. Whoa, that's a nice message. Way to go. You'll send that message right through your organization like a bonfire. Yeah. Get these people to give you some honest feedback quickly. These people are thrilled. Again, 7th year in a row, I got my 4%. I'm a good, solid, mediocre employee. These people have retired, they just forgot to tell you. These people actually like when these people don't come to work. That's sad. It's a better place, it's a better environment when these people call in sick. I Told you I was going to challenge your thinking a little bit. Because at the end of the day, that's a leadership issue. That's your responsibility. You need to be called on the carpet. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is, where's your pressure coming from? And I'd like to ask you to leave here today thinking about, I need to change how my thinking is where it starts, but how does my organization think about pressure? By the way, pressure is a good thing too, right? Is there good pressure? Absolutely. Except, you know what? I can also promise you, I can tell you how to lose weight. I can. But you won't do it. See, what's missing for many of you, which we're going to give you today, is some sort of method of accountability. Could Jeff get up every morning and go to the gym and work out by himself? Of course. But when he pays somebody a stupid amount of money to train him and be there with him at a specific time, it's harder to hit snooze. Is it not? See, most of you, I'm going to challenge your thinking about, are you willing to be held accountable at a higher level? And for some of you, it would be any level at all. Some of you don't have a lot of accountability in your company. Or if you do, it's poorly designed and poorly orchestrated. Question 1, how do you create alignment? Give me a short 5-second answer. Have a plan. Clearly communicating and achieving achievement. Somebody else, one more. I'm sorry? Commitment. Thank you. Something else. Strategy. Expectations. Clear expectations. Lead by the right example. Okay. Let's do this side of the room for question 2. How do you maintain alignment once you have it? Pay attention to it every day. Same thing? Anything else?
Measurable goals.
Have measurable goals.
Feedback and rewards.
Feedback, okay, and some sort of rewards. Yeah. This side, anything you would add to question 2? Eliminate the D's, add more A's. This side, anything you would add to question 1? Yes, sir? Clear roles and responsibilities. How many of you, surprise pop quiz. Get ready, I'm going to ask you if you want to raise your hand. How many of you right now, listen carefully to my words, could stand up, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. How many of you could tell me the top 4 measurable goals that you and your boss have talked about and agreed upon, and they're in writing in your office? How many of you can tell me with clarity the 4 right now? If you can, raise your hand. Listen to what I asked you. We have an audience full of leaders. How many of you can tell me the top 4 measurable goals that you and your boss have agreed to, minor point, and they're in writing, that's a small detail, and you understand what they are? So he or she understands and you understand. Imagine if you can't, except for you two, I'm going to call on each one of you in a moment, what chance do we have for the other 950? And you wonder why your financial performance is what it is. Really? A lot of CEOs are very driven people. They're kind of ready, fire, aim. And this says, hold it. You don't have if you really want to outperform your competition sustainably over time, you've got to have a great plan first before you can plan to execute. And for me, the go to war part is the execute part. That's what it means to me. 140 million business owners, it's what they don't know. See, could you stand up here and deliver this workshop? See, that's really the question. So one of the things we're going to talk about is individual development plans for every leader in your organization. One of the keys to our success of improving trust in management in one of those healthcare systems, we improve trust in management from frontline employees in a 1,000-person organization, 4 hospitals, by 78% in 6 months. Now, how do we know we improved it by 78%? Because we were measuring it. We had a system in place to track it. And we had individual development plans for every person that had anything to do with supervising people. We began to make developing our leadership team a priority. And we built it into the accountability, and I'll show you how in a moment. You know what I want your takeaway to be from this slide? How leaders treat employees is how employees treat customers. Write that down. How leaders treat employees is how employees treat customers. Why does my company focus on leadership so much? Because to me, that's getting at the root of the problem. I'm not going to snip off the top of the dandelion. I want to get at the root of change. And it starts with leadership. How leaders treat employees is how employees treat customers. At Oakwood Healthcare, 3 years later, they won the Greatest Place to Work in Detroit award in a healthcare system that used to have an extraordinary turnover. Because we all know that employees don't leave companies, they leave managers. You want to look in a department that's got turnover problems or quality problems, you have a leadership problem. You don't have an employee problem. That may be part of it. You want to get to the root of the problem? Go find out how they're running the company. Go find out how they're running that unit, and you'll get at the root of the problem. So we place a great deal of emphasis on developing people in leadership positions, including frontline supervisors and assistant supervisors on the afternoon shift, because their role is just as important just because you're not around. Tended to be ruthless at determining priorities. Underline the word ruthless. It didn't say they were good at setting goals. It said they were ruthless. They would not tolerate somebody on the midnight shift not knowing how their 2 Press Ganey scores are going to help drive the performance of that business and improve the quality of lives in that hospital, and it's related to the company goal. And by the way, they get weekly feedback on how am I doing. And every morning in a daily huddle. Do you use huddles yet? Do you? Good job. They're filled with great coaches, people skilled at helping people do their very best. That's you and your direct reports. Imagine building a culture of coaching and feedback. If I'm CEO, no. My job is to coach you and to make sure you're skilled and that we have a good process for giving people honest feedback about their performance. My daughter gets it every time she called me yesterday. It's called a report card. She gets grades. And if it's not up to my expectations that she and I have jointly agreed upon before the semester started, I give her some feedback and I help her do some things. So I've hired her a mentor to help her in a particular class that she was having a challenge in. She's almost a 4-point student. I just have a pretty high bar. It's not all A's. I just want her best. And if there's something she's struggling in, I want to get her some help. In business today, those are called managers. Help people. Your job is to help them. Your job is to give them positive feedback. But if they aren't performing up to expectations, it's also your job to call them off privately and confidentially and work with them. Help them be successful. That's your job. They work for you. Your job is to help make them successful. If I were designing an org chart, I'd turn it upside down. Your job is to help them be successful. And if we could get 300 people doing that, they'd be writing stories about stuff going on at that hospital. Here it is. If you were to pick one marker above all others that would be a warning sign, it would be the declining proportion of key seats filled by the right people now and for the future. See, here's an interesting question for you. You might write this down as solution number 1. What would it be like if we did an assessment of all of the key positions in your organization and who's in them today, and what does the pool of candidates look like that's going to succeed them in the next 12 to 24 months? And what do we need to do to develop them, to expedite their growth, so when we put them in the positions, they step right in and they're effective? What would that do to the sustainable trajectory of your business? Doug has a relatively small company, but it's growing fast. One of the things Doug has chose to do is to ask me to come in and be part of his executive team, so we collaborate weekly. And he's going into other countries with products and services. So collaboration is a big deal. I'm going to show you a tool to help you understand, are you, in fact, is your executive team as good as you think it is? Because if not, we may be getting at the root of the problem. And your executive team might be you and a partner. Doesn't have to be like 12 people. We've talked about a strategic plan, acting on opportunities, a system to develop people. See, here's an interesting skill we're going to talk about in a moment. How many of you are really skillful at sitting down with a piece of paper with each of your direct reports and putting together an individual development plan that not only identifies the 1 or 2 competencies they need to work on as a leader, but here are the 6 things you need to do this year? How many of you could facilitate that conversation? And the answer is probably not many of us. Some. We have a process to help you with that. So one of the things I'd like you to be open to is, I came here today not to sell you anything. We have solutions to your problems. I'm going to walk you through them right now. But what I've been trying to do for the last hour and 55 minutes is get your attention. I've been trying to help you see that there's a better way to run the business that's more sustainable over time. Because if people are calling from out of state to work at your hospital, your recruiting expenses go down. Your retention of nurses goes up. The doctors, is it important to have a great doctor satisfaction score? Absolutely. And so now the machine begins to work because you've taken a look at the 6 or 7 or 8 most important things that you need to build into your business over the next 24 months, and we begin to create that blueprint. This all doesn't happen tomorrow. We have the greatest, I've been doing this for 30 years. Our company has the greatest collection of assessment tools I know of on the face of the earth. And we tend to focus most of our assessments in 3 areas. We do a cultural assessment. That would mean, to use Olsen Thielen as an example, we would ask every employee in the organization to complete the survey. And it just costs a few bucks. It's not even expensive. Why would that be important to have that? So if you did a survey, it would give you, if you did an assessment, it would give you data. Now, why would that data be important? You work here, right? Why would that data be important? So if I showed you the report, I'm about to give it to you. In fact, I'm going to hand it to the entire senior partner group. Why would that data be important? All of you chime in. So here's the report. We just completed the assessment of the entire organization, and I've got it in my hands. Why would that be valuable? Right? It's knowledge. Why else? It's your benchmark for what? Right? So you can measure going forward. What else? What other value would it serve? How many different departments or teams are there within OT? Rough guess. 3? So even if you took those 4 or 5 departments, and I gave you each department's report and how it rolls up into the company report, would that be valuable data? Would you understand why you've had some of the turnover in certain areas? Maybe. Because now you've got department data. What else would it give you? Because when employees give you feedback about what it's like to work here, what else could you do with it? Areas to work on. Because without having some sort of assessment, what would you work on? Just random stuff? I mean, you can pick stuff. But if you go to the doctor, is he just going to give you some medicine and hope it's the right penicillin? No, he's going to do some sort of assessment, some sort of diagnosis. Right? I mean, if you really want to spend your money wisely and have it be targeted and be able to measure your progress, why wouldn't you use some sort of assessment tool? And you can do this with 10 employees. We have one we use for leadership. And we have Jeff and I have one of the most powerful ones ever invented for sales, people in sales or sales leadership. So here's your question. On your green piece of paper, write down a note for yourself. How do you make this a priority? Everybody take your right hand and do this. How long does it take to make a decision? That long. So what do you need to do? What's one action you need to take from being here to make planning and execution a priority? And when I say a priority, I mean like one of the top 2 for your company. Because when you make that a priority, now we get to have a different revenue conversation. Now we get to have a different conversation about planning and growth. Now we get to have a different conversation about expanding our business into a new community.